A shift is happening, one that begins not outside of you but deep within. It's not loud. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks or dramatic signs. It's subtle at first, a feeling, a whisper, a question that won't go away. It's the quiet nudge that something about your life no longer fits. You wake up one day and realize you can't pretend anymore. The routines that once comforted you now feel suffocating. The people around you speak, but their words feel distant. The noise of the world continues, but you no longer wish to be part of the crowd. That's not apathy, it's awakening. This awakening isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been, beneath the conditioning, the programming, and the expectations placed upon you. You start to feel a growing discomfort with anything that lacks authenticity. Lies become harder to tell and even harder to tolerate. You become allergic to anything that isn't real. The things you used to chase, approval, attention, status, they lose their shine. Instead, you begin craving silence, connection, purpose. There is an emptiness that forms inside of you, but it's not a void, it's space. Space for truth, space for clarity, space for something higher. You might feel lost during this stage, as if you're floating between two worlds. That's because you are. You're leaving behind a dimension where fear and survival dominated your thoughts, and stepping into one where awareness and intention begin to guide your every move. This isn't a smooth transition. It's often filled with doubt, confusion, even grief, because to awaken is to die, to let go of the version of yourself that was built only to survive. But the pain is sacred. It's the body's way of making room for your soul to speak. Your thoughts begin to shift. You start noticing your patterns. You recognize the loops you've been living in, the fears that were never truly yours, the stories you've been repeating for years. Suddenly the desire to change becomes stronger than the fear of it. You start making different choices, not out of rebellion, but out of remembrance. You begin aligning your life with truth. You start walking away from things that drain you. You set boundaries not to push others away, but to protect the light you're starting to carry. This is the birth of conscious expansion. You stop reacting and start responding. You learn to pause, to breathe, to listen, not just to others but to your own inner voice, the one that was always there, buried under noise and doubt. That voice becomes your compass. You start seeking not what is easy but what is true. You move from a life of doing to a life of being. And in this state of being you realize you were never broken, never behind. You were always on time, always guided, always chosen. The awakening is not a goal, it's a remembering, a return, a quiet revolution that begins inside of you and radiates into everything you touch. Once it begins, it cannot be undone. And once you awaken, you will never see the world the same way again. Your body and emotions are no longer operating in the same way they once did. Something inside you is shifting, recalibrating, realigning itself with a new frequency, a higher one. This transformation may feel strange, even unsettling at times, but understand this. What you are experiencing is not malfunction, it is activation. Your entire system, physical, emotional, and energetic, is undergoing an upgrade. Suddenly, the things your body used to tolerate begin to feel heavy or even toxic. Foods that once brought comfort now make you sluggish. Crowded spaces overwhelm you. Artificial environments drain you in a way you can't explain. You may feel waves of fatigue followed by bursts of energy. One moment you're energized with inspiration, the next you feel like you've been hit by a tidal wave of exhaustion. These are not random. Your body is trying to adjust to a higher flow of life force energy. It's as if a new operating system is being installed, and the body needs time and stillness to integrate it. Sleep patterns begin to change. You may wake up at odd hours, especially during the early morning between 3 and 5 p.m., the so-called spiritual hours. Dreams become vivid, symbolic, sometimes emotionally intense. These dreams aren't just your subconscious playing back old stories. They're messages, guidance, and sometimes cleansing processes in disguise. Emotional surges follow close behind. You might find yourself crying without a clear reason, or feeling deep sadness that seems to come out of nowhere. But it's not from nowhere, it's from within. Your body is purging stored emotional memory, grief, anger, fear, that has lived inside your tissues for years, even decades. You are no longer just living day to day. You are clearing generations of survival-based energy from your lineage. The pain you feel is not weakness, it is healing in motion. You may feel more sensitive, more exposed. But with that sensitivity comes a deeper capacity to feel joy, love, and gratitude. Emotional numbness dissolves. Where there was once apathy, there is now compassion. Where there was once fear, there is now clarity. Even your relationships begin to shift. You might feel irritation or resistance around people you once got along with easily. That's not arrogance. It's energetic misalignment. As your emotional body upgrades, you start to crave deeper connections. Shallow conversations feel empty. You want truth. You want presence. And anything less than that begins to feel foreign. You may also feel the sudden urge to move, stretch, dance, walk in nature, not because someone told you to, but because your body is calling for it. Movement becomes medicine, stillness becomes sacred. Your body speaks more clearly now, and you're learning to listen. It's not just about fitness or wellness anymore. It's about flow. It's about alignment. These upgrades are not something to fear. They are signs that your system is preparing for a higher way of being. They are evidence that you are shedding the density of old patterns and making space for light, for life, for expansion. So honor this process. Trust your body. Trust your feelings. You are not breaking down. You are becoming. As your inner awakening deepens, one of the most noticeable changes is the amplification of your sensitivity. But this is not the kind of sensitivity that makes you weak or fragile. This is energetic sensitivity. The deepening of your connection to the invisible layers of reality. Your senses become sharper, not just in a physical sense, but on a spiritual and emotional level. You begin to notice things you once overlooked. Sounds feel louder, colors more vibrant, and your environment begins to carry a new weight. You walk into a room and instantly feel the energy, whether it's calm, tense, joyful, or heavy, before anyone says a word. This isn't imagination, it's intuition waking up. People's words matter less to you now. Their energy says everything. You sense the truth behind a smile, the fear behind someone's anger, the sadness hiding beneath indifference. And it's not because you've become judgmental. It's because you've become tuned in. You've learned to read frequencies, not faces. This newfound awareness can feel overwhelming at first. You may find yourself withdrawing from certain places or people without fully knowing why. That's your energy field protecting itself. Your body is becoming more selective about what it allows in, not out of fear, but because it has started to remember its worth. Nature begins to speak to you in new ways. You don't just walk through a forest, you feel it. The trees seem alive, whispering truths that can't be spoken but are deeply understood. You stand by a river and feel your emotions flow with it. You look at the sky and sense vastness within yourself. Animals react differently around you. Birds come closer. The natural world recognizes your frequency shift. You are no longer just an observer, you are a participant in the symphony of existence. This heightened sensitivity also affects your relationship with time. It no longer feels strictly linear. You may experience moments where time feels stretched, slowed, or accelerated. A 5-minute meditation might feel like hours. A whole day might pass in what seems like moments. You begin to live in what some call sacred time, where you are fully present, and the clock no longer dictates your life. Your sense of timing becomes internal. You know when to act and when to pause. Not based on logic, but based on alignment. Of course, this sensitivity comes with challenges. Crowded places may exhaust you. Violent media might become intolerable. Small talk can feel painfully dull. But these are not limitations. They are signs of refinement. You are no longer numbed. You are alive, aware, and awake. Your nervous system is adapting to carry more light, more truth, more depth. Embrace this shift. It is a sign of your evolution. The world might tell you to toughen up, to be less sensitive, but your sensitivity is not your weakness. It is your superpower. It is the compass guiding you through dimensions not everyone can see. And as you learn to navigate this new terrain, you'll realize you were never too much. You were always just tuned in. One of the most profound and surreal aspects of your awakening is the way your perception of time begins to change. What once felt solid, structured, and predictable, minutes, hours, days, starts to dissolve into something far more fluid and non-linear. Time, as you knew it, no longer behaves the same way. You may begin experiencing stretches of time that seem to move faster or slower without warning. A single moment might feel infinite, while entire hours or days pass in what feels like seconds. This isn't a trick of the mind, it's a shift in consciousness. As your awareness expands, so does your relationship with time. Déjà vu becomes more frequent. You find yourself in situations that feel familiar, as though you've lived them before, because in some dimension you have. Your soul exists beyond the confines of linear time, and what you're experiencing is a merging of timelines, a remembering of parallel realities. Time loops may occur, where the same lesson, emotion, or circumstance keeps appearing in your life, not to punish you, but to give you the chance to respond differently. These loops are invitations. They ask you to break old cycles and step into a new frequency where evolution can occur. You might also notice that manifestations happen much more quickly. What once took years of effort now seems to arrive with ease, or completely fall apart overnight if it's no longer aligned. This is the energetic shift from cause and effect to cause and intention. When your vibration rises, the gap between thought and reality shrinks. What you focus on begins to shape your experience faster, with more clarity and intensity. This isn't magic, it's alignment. You are no longer bound to the slow crawl of three-dimensional time. You are co-creating in real time. Planning becomes different. You begin to rely less on rigid schedules and more on inner timing. You feel when to act and when to wait. You trust in divine timing, not because you're passive, but because you understand that not all movement is progress. You begin to see that the universe works with rhythm, not rush. You let go of the need to control outcomes and instead learn to dance with timing, flowing with it like a river rather than forcing it like a machine. This new relationship with time may make you feel detached from the clock, from deadlines, from urgency. Others might see you as too relaxed, too detached, or even lazy, but deep down you know that something has shifted. You are no longer measuring your life by productivity, but by alignment. You begin to value presence over planning, being over doing. And in that space, where time becomes fluid, something beautiful happens. You begin to live fully in the moment. Not because you were taught to, but because you realize that the present is the only true time there is. Past and future blend into now, and in that now you are free, free to heal, free to create, free to just be. This is the gift of the awakened mind, the freedom to move beyond the ticking clock. There comes a moment on the path of awakening when the world you once knew begins to feel unfamiliar. The places you used to frequent, the conversations you used to enjoy, the people you once felt connected to, they all start to feel distant. It's not that anything dramatic happened. It's not about conflict or falling out. It's something deeper, something quieter. It's a knowing that what once resonated no longer does. This is the soul's natural shedding process. You are not running away, you are simply outgrowing the old version of yourself and, with it, the world that version lived in. This detachment can be disorienting. Habits that once brought comfort now feel empty. Old routines become lifeless rituals. Even your own identity begins to dissolve. You look in the mirror and sense a shift, as if you no longer fully recognize the person staring back. That's because the ego, the mask you wore to survive, is starting to crack. The soul is stepping forward. It's a quiet, powerful emergence. You're not becoming someone new, you're remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Relationships shift dramatically during this phase. Some people naturally drift away, while others may leave suddenly. You may feel sadness, guilt, even confusion, but deep down you know it's necessary. The energetic alignment you once shared with them no longer exists. You're vibrating at a different frequency now, and anything that doesn't match that vibration starts to fall away. This is not rejection, it's realignment. You are not abandoning people. You are answering the call of your evolution. Letting go is rarely easy. It can feel like a death, and in many ways it is. The death of old roles, old patterns, old stories. But every ending is a beginning in disguise. As one chapter closes, another silently begins. And though the space left behind may feel empty at first, it is that very space that allows for the new to enter. New connections, new experiences, new layers of purpose and truth. You may also detach from external pursuits and markers of success. The chase for titles, status, validation begins to lose its grip on you. Not because you no longer care, but because you now understand that true worth isn't something to earn but something to embody. You begin to crave depth over recognition, meaning over materialism, peace over performance. There's a strange freedom in this detachment. What once felt like loss begins to feel like liberation. You start to see clearly for the first time, without filters, without conditioning. You recognize how much of your life was built on shoulds and expectations. And now, you choose differently. You choose alignment. You choose truth. You choose yourself. This shedding of the old world is not the end. It is the threshold. The space between who you were and who you're becoming. And while it may feel like floating between two realities, trust that the ground will form beneath your feet. Trust that this detachment is sacred, because only when the old is released can the new truly begin. As your consciousness begins to rise, you'll notice the world around you is no longer random. Patterns begin to emerge. Messages wrapped in numbers, symbols, and subtle coincidences that feel far too meaningful to ignore. These are not accidents, these are synchronicities, divine nudges from the universe. Gentle, sometimes startling reminders that there is a greater intelligence at work, that you are being guided, even when you feel uncertain or lost. These signs do not speak to your logic, they speak to your soul. You begin seeing repeating numbers, 111, 222, 444. At first they seem like a curiosity, but soon you realize they show up when you're thinking deeply, asking for clarity, or feeling doubt. These sequences are not just digits, they are coded messages from the unseen. They serve as confirmations, encouragements, or wake-up calls, a way for the universe to say, you're on the right path, or it's time to shift your direction. The more you pay attention, the more they appear, because the more aware you are, the more the universe can communicate with you. Dreams also take on a new intensity. They become more vivid, more symbolic. You may see visions, revisit old memories, or encounter people you've never met but somehow know. These are not just creations of the subconscious, they are doorways. Dreams become sacred spaces where your soul processes, receives guidance, and even explores other timelines. The line between waking life and the dream world begins to blur, and you start living with one foot in each. You may also experience sudden ideas, gut feelings, or a sense of knowing that has no logical source. A voice within you tells you to call someone, take a different route, or speak a truth you've been holding in. And when you listen, something aligns perfectly. You arrive just in time. You hear exactly what you needed. You avoid a mistake you didn't even know you were about to make. These nudges are the language of your soul, echoing through your intuition, and the more you trust it, the stronger it becomes. People show up at the right moment. Books fall into your hands that answer the very question you've been carrying in your heart. A song plays on the radio that speaks directly to your situation. These aren't coincidences, they are orchestrations. They are evidence that your life is not a series of disconnected events, but a carefully woven tapestry of divine timing. When you start noticing these signs, something within you shifts. You stop asking for proof and instead begin to participate. You move through life not just reacting, but responding, aware that the universe is always in conversation with you. You begin to see guidance everywhere, not because the signs just appeared, but because you finally became still enough to see them. This is the beauty of awakening. You don't just live life, you align with it. You begin walking your soul's true path, not with fear or confusion, but with a quiet confidence, knowing that even the smallest sign can be the universe pointing the way home. You were never meant to remain confined in the limits of the old world. The changes you're experiencing, the emotional surges, the physical recalibrations, the vivid dreams, the loss of former identities, the flood of synchronicities, none of this is random. You are not losing control. You are finally stepping into your highest alignment. You are not broken. You are being rebuilt for a new frequency, one that your soul has always known, but your body is only now beginning to embody. This is the transition into the fifth dimension, not a place but a state of being. A state where your inner world becomes more real than the external noise. A state where time bends to your awareness, where emotions are sacred guides, and where your sensitivity is no longer a weakness, but your compass. You are awakening to the truth that reality does not happen to you, it flows through you. Everything that no longer fits is falling away. Relationships, habits, distractions, even your sense of identity. They're being stripped not to leave you empty, but to make space for the real you to emerge. That detachment is not death, it's rebirth. And in that space of becoming, the universe begins to speak louder. Through numbers, through dreams, through people, through silence. The signs are everywhere because you are finally ready to see them. You are not who you once were, and you will never be again, and that is a beautiful, sacred truth, because you are evolving, rising, activating. You are stepping into a life that is led not by fear, but by frequency, not by force, but by flow. You are no longer surviving, you are expanding. So honor the process, trust the journey, walk the path even when it feels uncertain, because every shift, every synchronicity, every breakdown is pointing you to one truth. You are the chosen one, not in arrogance but in purpose. You were meant to awaken, you were meant to rise, and now your time has come. Let go, surrender, and step fully into the dimension your soul has already entered. The signs are clear, the call is strong, and the path is already unfolding beneath your feet.